All right, we're going to get started and people will join in as they join in. So welcome everybody. You see we have Councillor Huda on with us, thank you. I believe we also had Councillor Trace and Whalen, Councillors Trace and Whalen who signed up. So they might join us as we get through here. I am Valerie Rochon, for those of you who don't know me. I'm the president of the Chamber Collaborative of Greater Portsmouth, and also on the call with us are Ben Van Kemp, who's our VP, and Jen Stevens, who's our communications guru. So she's our social media person for the Chamber. My co-host today is Andrew Bagley, and let me introduce Andrew. Andrew has been a resident of Portsmouth for 10 years with his wife Janet and a 13-year-old daughter who attends Portsmouth Middle School. He has been in the precision optics industry for about 20 years, involved with the manufacture of optics for such things such as cell phone camera lenses, medical devices, night vision, space optics, and pretty much anything that light travels through. He's usually traveling worldwide most of the time, but in 2020, we can assume that he did not since he returned from Germany in March. Because he works from home, a short walk to downtown, he's used that opportunity of being home to spend more time volunteering. So we know how much work he has done with Pop-Up New Hampshire. He's also been a member of the Athenaeum since 2017 and considers that one of our town's great institutions. So Andrew, thank you so much for helping me out today.
Oh yeah, very happy to be here.
Great, thank you. We are talking with people who are doing well at doing good, people who have stepped up, and we have so many people in town. There's no way that we could ever identify all of them, but we wanted to bring on at least a couple of them, a couple of organizations who have been just doing some wonderful things during this the last 9 months when we've all been having so much fun. So welcome to all of you who are joining us to talk to these folks, to hear from these folks. We need a little bit of housekeeping. You'll be on mute. Please use the chat function to ask questions, and Ben is moderating that. We will have our speakers first, followed by the Q&A towards the end. If anything happens with the Zoom call, if we get hijacked, then we'll close the Zoom immediately and we'll reschedule. And you should know that all Chamber Chat Live events are recorded and will be posted on our social media and our website. So the three people who represent larger groups of people who have been pandemic powerhouse heroes over the last 9 months include Ann Weidman of JSA Designs, and Sarah Lachanze and Javi Kalbach representing the Seacoast Mask Makers. And we're really lucky that they've joined us today, so we appreciate that. Before we get started, I want to share a few things on Chamber News. You know that our holiday fundraiser that we have every year, which is wine, beer, and hard cider tasting and networking event, obviously can't happen, but we have built something to support our nonprofits, and that's Hope for the Holidays. And I hope that you are able to visit portsmouthcollaborative.org/hope to support our nonprofit businesses. You can spend as little as $10 and as much as $4,000 for some of the wishes and the hopes that they have that we put up there. So thank you, Ben, for getting all of that up on our website. There's a store right there. You can simply choose what you want. 100% of the dollars that you donate go directly to that nonprofit to support that wish or hope that they put up there. On December 15th, Targeting Your Best Customers with Susan Gold is going to be a great seminar, and a very important one, coronavirus vaccinations, the limitations and requirements for employers, is coming on December 21st. That's going to be critical as well. You know that we have Connect and Collaborate every Thursday and Friday mornings. There are 2 groups. If you're interested in joining, please connect with Ben. So you can visit portsmouthcollaborative.org and click on the Chamber events calendar anytime. A couple more things I want to shout out about. You know that the Seacoast Chamber Alliance has been working hard to deal with COVID, and you'll see weekly updates that we put out every Thursday from the SCA And this week, there are a couple of items that I want to mention. The Employability Forum is coming on December 15th. That's understanding the skills and personal attributes that will make you most successful in the workplace. And a very important webinar on January 12th is the Wayfair decision. If you're a retailer and you sell products online to people who do not live in the state of New Hampshire, you need to know about the tax implications of that. So that's a critical, absolutely critical seminar. That's January 12th. We're also asking people to take the Seacoast Safe Pledge. We know that in your businesses, people are hesitant Seacoast Safe Pledge, which will help to build consumer confidence so that people will feel comfortable coming inside. You agree to abide by the guidance that's put out by the CDC, the state, and our local health department. And by putting that window clean, taking the pledge and putting that window clean in the front of your business, you're telling people that you're doing everything within your power to keep them safe, building consumer confidence. So you can also find that information at visit seacoastnh.com, which is our new Seacoast Chamber Alliance website that has all of this information. So it has both visitor resources and business resources. Anybody who signs up for that pledge on the business side is automatically listed on the visitor resources side so that people can look and see who has taken that pledge and feel confident about coming to you. So please do that. Reminder that we're going to open up for questions once all of our guests have spoken, so please enter your questions through the chat function. And now let me introduce Ann Weidman, is the Director of Community Engagement at JSA Design, a Portsmouth architecture planning and interior design firm. She's co-founder with architect Todd Hanson of Access Navigators, an organization that has become a leader in advocacy for people impacted by disabilities, by speaking around the world about the impact of accessibility on people and the economy, and mentoring students and volunteers as advocates and data collectors. Always continuing to look for new ways to keep people impacted by disabilities connected to their communities. I'm sorry, did I just interrupt somebody? I apologize if I did. Okay. In June, Ann became the spokesperson for the Portsmouth Design Professionals Alliance, a pro bono group that became the unofficial downtown streetscape design team for the city of Portsmouth's outdoor dining expansion. Once settled in that role, she spun off into a variety of things that continue to make Portsmouth more livable in 2020 and beyond. She's been attending every single task force meeting, citizens response task force meeting, and she's just been, she's like the ever ready bunny. She's wonderful. Paying attention to so much and doing so much great work for us. So, Ann.
All
please.
right. So let's see. Let's share my screen. Did that do that? Wait, I'm hidden by these little buttons popping up. There we go. Can you see me now?
You look great.
Fantastic. Valerie, thank you so much. It's fun to be here today. I would be remiss if I don't start with a shout out to my employer, which is always a good idea for every employee to do. But in my case, it's because my employer is so generous with my time that I'm able to do all these things that I've done in the last 9 months. In case you don't know what JSA Design does through the years, these are our buildings. They probably all look familiar to you. And right now we've got shovels in the ground, or in the case of the upper right, a completion. And yesterday, I think some sort of ribbon cutting and award from Portsmouth Advocates for Cary Cottage. So shout out to JSA. Thank you so much for letting me have the time to do all these things. I put this presentation together a couple of months ago. We presented to the Massachusetts Association of Traffic Engineers, which is just as, well, I don't know, that was an interesting group. We were right before the Rotary Design group. But we had to explain to them what Portsmouth is, and even some people that live here don't realize how many restaurant seats we have in this town. And with 22,000 residents, we have more than 26,000 permitted restaurant seats. So above everything, we are a foodie destination. And in previous years, this is what Market Square always looked like for us. But this April, May, and June, we were absolutely stalled on how to expand our dining to outdoors, and our downtown was desolate. Some restaurateurs came forward and had a great idea to shut down all the downtown streets, and it was a cool idea, and we would love to do that, except it's not realistic. We need to have functional streets for things like fire engines and garbage trucks and curbside pickup. So that kind of got a fast no thank you, but that was what triggered the idea that design professionals could maybe come to the aid of the city and get something done. Bob White, who is a landscape designer, has his office overlooking, basically, he looks across at Penhallow Street, and he saw this happening with the three restaurateurs, and he said, gosh, I just need to get some people together. We could do something about this. And he sent an email out in early June to 50 design professionals, and the next morning he had 25 people signed on to be part of the pro bono design team that the city didn't even know was happening. So for 5 days, this team collaborated every night. All of us had full-time day jobs, and after hours, we collaborated 5 nights in a row and tried to figure out how we could comply with functional streets and get our restaurants to be outside. And, you know, honestly, look at what we all look like here. This is how we felt that week. It was a lot of work. Bob was a good leader, and he knew that because none of us really knew each other and none of us knew how each other worked, he split the town up into zones. I think this is six different blocks, and he handed these blocks out to the architects and the landscape designers. Many of the choices of who got which block was because those people had done work on that block in their professional lives. So like Robbie Woodburn got the block that has 3 Pleasant Street, the new Toscana Steakhouse, because she's the landscape architect for that project. So it was some very logical decision making as to who was going to work on what. And they got to work doing street plans that looked something like this. While they were doing that, those of us who were not design professionals got together and figured out how are we going to package this up and how are we going to get this in front of the city. Originally, we thought it needed to go into a city council packet, but we realized that our best path for success was to become the design muscle for the Portsmouth, the Citizens Response Task Force. And we went to them. Honestly, it was a couple of day turnaround, explained what we were doing, and it gave them the confidence that they went to city council on like maybe day 7 of our design effort. They went to city council and said, we have the confidence that we can make this happen. We have drawings coming to us right now. And at that point, city council said, go for it. It was a wonderful moment. But what we did in that 5 days that we handed off to the city, we created a workbook of concepts, not necessarily of what should be in each block, but ideas of what could be in order to get the restaurants thinking about how they could best come out into the public and what can you do when you're dining in the street. One of our biggest pluses was that Tangram 3DS in Kittery signed on pro bono services to help bring these images to life. So Jared Foley, who's with Tangram, he went out, he photographed each one of the blocks we were working on. And over this 5 days, as those hand-drawn streetscapes were being completed, they were being sent to Jared, and Jared transformed them into what could happen when this becomes a live streetscape. So we went through these blocks, and I'm going to flip through really quickly here. This is what was in the workbook that, when it was finished, went on to the city. Each one of these blocks was treated differently. Each one has functional streets. None of them were ever done with the intention that this is exactly what was going to be built, but more like inspiring ideas of what could be, that dining in the street actually could be really cool. So we go through all of this, and voila, city council says, you got it, let's do something. And the morning after that city council meeting, the Jersey barriers started dropping around town. And I think you all know what our downtown started to look like. Dining started to evolve, and it somewhat resembled what the concepts were at the beginning. We always say the closest one was Massimo, who even got the same color umbrellas of what we put in his concept drawing. These all worked pretty darn well. It saved our downtown. At the same time, though I'm not part of the task force, I was logging on to all the task force calls, and we pretty quickly realized that the task force, I mean, this is early July at this point, and not everyone on the task force was even walking around downtown. A lot of us were still staying in our houses, maybe doing a drive-by. And what you were able to see from the street was very much Jersey barrier, yet if you were a pedestrian on the sidewalk, you were seeing a different scene. So the next thing I did was start to put together little presentations for the task force. And they were all little mini 2 and 3 minute things. Some were suggestions. This was an early suggestion that if those signboards like you see in front of the gas light, if they were shifted, maybe our traffic pattern could be a little more effective on the sidewalk and keep people away from those tables. You know, we were coming in with little itty bitty ideas. We were looking at curb cuts and how the Jersey barriers are sitting. We were looking there at Bridge Street Bistro. You can see there was a little hot top ramp put in. I think Bridge Street did that on their own. So we're just like seeing what's happening and reporting this back. And then keeping an eye on the accessible parking spaces that we were losing and making sure that the DPW was replacing those parking spaces somewhere else. Mask Up Portsmouth initiative came in, and we just got silly and threw these masks on Jersey barriers. Everything that was happening in the task force, we kept looking for ways to amplify it through town. Then things were changing again. They rethought Congress Street. And so we took pictures of that just to make sure that the task force was seeing exactly precisely what the sidewalk view of all of this dining was really looking like. This all should look really familiar to you. It's kind of like the work in progress here. Black Trumpet was one we came in towards the end. We felt like this was a great victory. We were up against Homeland Security, who said, there's no way we can open this street. I don't think you can do this. And we went down one day, and with Evan Mallett, we pulled some tables and chairs out of the Black Trumpet. We mocked it up. We sat at the tables and pretended that we were customers. We took pictures. We presented that the next morning to Juliet at the planning department at City Hall. She thought it was a go. They ran with it. And a couple of days later, Evan got permission for outdoor dining, which he today says was what really saved him. That plus the pop-up were the 2 additional pieces of income that let him keep his head above water. So now we moved into another thing for the task force, a small assignment of what's happening everywhere else, because maybe other cities are doing it better than we are. So I started pulling things from all over the country of what are the other towns doing? Is there any concept that we're missing? And we were seeing what these other cities were doing, and we were grabbing ideas from it. We were grabbing ideas for what to do with barriers, how to use planters, how to change all of that. Around this time, now the dining has all settled. Now we're probably into mid to late July. And now I kind of put on my Access Navigator's hat, and we realized that some of these outdoor dining situations had created dining corrals that were inaccessible by anyone using a wheelchair. No ramp, no curb cut, you can't get into it. So wearing the Access Navigator's hat, we started taking a look at all of the outdoor dining spaces. And if there was a little nudge of something, and some were tiny nudges, we asked Rudy's, could they please shift one of their umbrellas about a foot to the left, and that would open up a curb cut and provide access. So I mean, some of these were tiny little asks. And then we wrote up little reviews of the outdoor dining, all the ones that were good, not the bad ones, not going there. The good ones, we wrote up reviews and we posted them on social media, and they started getting shared around other social media groups. We would post a review of a restaurant, the outdoor dining, and we would get 8,000 to 10,000 views of that review. It was unbelievable. People were kind of hungry for this information. We went back in, same thing, harping on the accessible parking spaces again. And we were pretty successful with that. DPW was very responsive. Then by now it's August, it's late August, and now we're into a whole nother, oh my gosh, what's coming next? We've managed the outdoor dining pretty well, but now what? And so the next assignment loosely came from the task force was, could I take a look at strategies for winter? And the first one that popped up was the Winter Dining Challenge in Chicago, was in early September. They ended up with 640 submissions. I took a look at all 640 of them, which were available online. You can see every submission. And from that 640, I picked the top probably 20 that were feasible for Portsmouth, dropped them into a 6-slide PowerPoint, and in 2 minutes presented that to the task force, showing here's some ideas. People are thinking outside of the box. And so as early as September, we were starting to see ideas for things that could happen. Because of finding that Chicago thing, I started to be all over the internet looking for ideas of winter strategies. And I found tons, and I couldn't figure out quite what to do with them. Portsmouth Design, the Alliance of Portsmouth Design Professionals has a Facebook page. That's what that header was back there. I started dropping all of these on the Facebook page. So it's become a little bit of a library of all the things that I'm finding from all over the country of people that are finding strategies for outdoor dining. If you go to that Facebook page, they're all there. If you're into having stuff come to you from Facebook pages, I have found nothing better than the Winter Cities Institute. A lot of what I post to our Facebook page is just shares I'm doing from Winter Cities. They've been around for at least 5 or 6 or more years. It's Canadian cities and a few Scandinavian cities, and they do this. They do winter outside. So lots of strategy ideas there. Moving a little bit away from the Design Alliance, the other thing that I always have my finger in is the Rink at Strawberry Bank. And this year, we started in August working with the city. How are we going to do this? Can we open? Can we do it safely? And could this actually be the bright light of the city, which I think it is. So the report now is we're open. People are realizing it is a safe place for them to come. It's very limited on ticket numbers. The crowds are safe. The sanitizing is huge and amazing, and it's going really well. There are strategies to make sure you get that ticket because we can sell out a session and you won't get in. For anyone who lives in Portsmouth or close enough that they can run in there, you can buy tickets on the same day. You can buy a ticket for a session later that day, guarantee your space later that day. So come on down to the Rink at 9 in the morning, get your ticket for the 1 o'clock session. Now you know you're in before you bundle up your kids. Last night was the member stroll event, and we had the amazing good fortune that we now are set up on a live stream webcam with sound. We thought actually it was going to be there just for last night. We live streamed the ice show that was on the ice last night. This is actually Jack Liu, who's a national competitor and medal winner and lives in Portsmouth. The live stream is going to stay there all season. We will be able to hear what people are saying on the ice, so be careful what you say if you go skating at Strawberry Bank. It was pretty cool, and we've posted the link on our Facebook page to last night's ice show. So if you weren't there, which you probably weren't, they were only allowing 50 people in at a time, you can still watch it because live streaming kind of is our thing today. Valerie, on the whole webcam business, Valerie put an idea in my head. I think she was just lamenting, saying, I wish we could have a tree cam like, who was it? Portland, I think was who you threw at me. Look at Portland, Maine's tree cam. It's really beautiful. And ours is a little bit more focusing on a lamppost and an alleyway. But our Portsmouth webcam guy is really just a fabulous individual. Mike McCormick, he lives, I think, in Derry. He's not local, but I got in touch with him and said, any chance, could we have a better webcam? And he said, if you find a window, I'll come put the webcam in. So we found a window, and we now have this as our Portsmouth Christmas tree cam. I know, yay. I was so excited when he put it up. It's been up for about, I don't know, maybe 10 days, and it's gorgeous. And thank you very much to the condo owner who is hosting that. Back to the design professionals, sort of the rundown of where we are today and our sort of overview. We stayed with that project. We refined all the current needs of the last summer's dining. We're still looking for design solutions for winter survival. We're ready to rock and roll once anything comes to us saying we need some help on what to do for winter. And the other thing we very much want to do is during the cold winter months is take another look at what we did last summer. We photographed every square inch of the outdoor dining, and we want to assess all of that and see if we can make it better for next summer, because I'm pretty sure it's coming back. I leave you with a quote that is always so meaningful to me. And this is us. This is all of us today. Get your citizens together. We can do this together. And that's what I've got. I think I got that in under 20 minutes, didn't I, Valerie?
You did a good job, Anne.
I always have a lot of slides, but I am the queen of really fast slides. Nobody wants to get stuck on slides.
That was, you know, the beauty of the work that was done. Not even the creativity is there as well, but just the beauty of the work was just, you know, it floored us when you first brought it to the task force. It continues to floor me, the amount of work.
I remember James Peterson and Mark Stebbins were absolutely mind-boggled when we showed up with this book. They were going to ask for another 2-week delay to figure out how to do it. And we just kind of, you know, emailed them and said, well, here you go. And it was we had a big conversation on a Sunday night. They said, can you commit to staying on this? And we said, yes. And the next day was the city council meeting where we got a midnight approval. And it was an approval of around midnight. I stayed up. I needed to hear that yes vote. It was unanimous. And at 8 o'clock the next morning, the barriers were dropping.
Oh, it's amazing.
Peter Rice had them, the trucks were loaded. They were ready to start. It was amazing how fast it rolled.
Thank you so much for all of the good work that you've been doing, and we so appreciate it. And we appreciate that you took the time to come and share it with everybody. Yes, Jen, you're absolutely right. It
was fun. I have to say that 5 days in June was exhausting, but it was one of the most exciting things I've ever been part of. And I wasn't one of the designers. I was honestly, at that point, I was kind of back channeling into Karen Kennard saying, we have this thing, and can we get this thing to get through to City Hall? And she was kind of hooking us up with who we should be talking to. It was really great. Karen was a great help on that. And then the whole city council kind of backing the idea was just terrific.
Yep, it takes a village.
It really did. It was a huge village.
Thank you. We're going to move on so that we have time to hear from Sarah and Javi and has some Q&As, because I suspect that people want to ask a few questions here. So let me quickly introduce Sarah and Javi. Sarah Lachanze is the director in the Global Cybersecurity Organization at Liberty Mutual Insurance Group. Recently graduated from Brown with an executive master's in cybersecurity. I didn't even know that existed, but yeehaw. She received the 2019 CrowdStrike Security Scholarship and was named a 2020 RSA Security Scholar. She's on the Industrial Advisory Board for UNH for the Information Technology curriculum. And in her free time, she's a member of the Portsmouth Economic Development Commission. She serves on the task force And she was recently reelected as a ward selectman facilitating election day activities. Not like election people have been under any fire recently either, Sarah, putting yourself in harm's way in all sorts of ways here.
Yes.
So thank you so much for your contributions. I'm just going to read Javi's bio so that when you're through, you can just transition over to Javi, okay?
Yep.
So Javi Kalbach is an experienced IT project manager, also at Liberty Mutual, lots of talent there, obviously, currently specializing in robotic automation projects. She's the founder and CEO behind Portsmouth Escape Room, a highly rated team building experience. She's originally from Chile, and she enjoys traveling and learning about different cultures and loves playing escape rooms during her free time. Thank you very much, both of you, for being here. Sarah, I'm going to put you up first there.
Sure. I am going to attempt to share my hastily assembled slides.
Yeah, after we saw Anne's, we had to like, damn it, we have to make some slides too.
I put that together 2 months ago. I had a huge advantage. I just had to update the end of it.
All right. Let's see if this works. All right, so hopefully this will work. There we go. And I'm going to actually share my screen. Where's the little thingy here? Here we go. Can you see my slides? All right, so actually Javi and I are going to go back and forth and have a very collaborative, spur of the moment conversation, which is exactly how Seacoast Mask Makers came together and responded to the ever-changing needs at the beginning of the pandemic. We've been in this for so long that sometimes it's hard to remember, how this all started. I remember, in March, we went from, going about our business as we normally did to everybody staying at home, within the course of a week. And I recall, I know where I was sitting on my couch with my laptop, looking at Facebook, and I saw Javi put out a call, for folks to be able to join together and start creating masks to meet the demand that we had in place. I think everybody knows, if supply chain isn't the word of the year for 2020, it certainly should be. But there was a shortage of PPE that was available, and Javi put out a call to say, hey, is anybody interested in helping us, solve some of the needs here? And so Javi, do you want to talk about like where this got started and your thought process, and then we can move into some of the community and process aspects of it.
Sure. So there was a lot of people on Facebook groups and stuff like that, kind of like, oh, like I would love to help. Like I can sew, like, can we make some masks? But then everyone was like, I want to help. I just don't know how to. And being a project manager, I was like, we definitely need to kind of like get together and figure out a way of do these effectively so that we can actually be helpful, because a bunch of people wanting to do things and not actually getting anything done is not really going to be helpful the other day. So I just started a Facebook group with the hopes that, people would join and we could kind of like organize ourselves and be helpful to each other. Like some people had materials, some people could help sewing. And I figured that would be kind of like the best way to get it started. I never imagined that it would get as big as it did. Within a couple of days, we had over 1,000 people already on the Facebook group. And originally the thought was like, okay, well, I don't know, this hospital is looking for masks. If you're making masks, you can take them here. This place needs masks, so you can take them there. But very quickly, we started getting requests from many, many places, people asking how they could participate, how like they could request masks, but we didn't really have a process. We were just like a bunch of people doing something. So after a couple of days, it was really clear that we had to quickly figure out a way of do this in an orderly manner that would be more effective for everyone. And that's kind of how it all got started. I just quickly started using some of my experience as a project manager and process design and stuff like that to come up with a way that would help people kind of like organize themselves. And then we got, then Amy joined the group, which she was in charge of kind of like all the intake, because we were getting so many requests, and that was obviously very important for us to understand who needed masks, how many they needed, where to take in, that type of thing. So everyone had kind of like different roles in the group. And then as the group grew, we really had, I don't know, we have like 12 hubs around the Seacoast with different locations where people could pick up materials, and then they would bring up the mask when they were done. And then every day we would run inventory and figure out how many masks we had. So then the same day, that night or the next morning, Amy could reach out to all the different groups that had requested masks so that we can actually deliver them the next day. So we had hundreds of people helping with the organization, and it was pretty crazy.
I just want to jump in for a second,
Yeah.
Javi. So what she talks about, so at first it was a group of people that wanted to help, but they didn't necessarily know exactly what to do. So the first thing that happened was we standardized on a pattern. It was a deaconess mask pattern. And one thing we found, so we were managing this through the Facebook group, is that people that want to help oftentimes will go off and add something extra that they think might be helpful, but wasn't necessarily helpful as far as standardizing the kinds of masks that we were collecting and distributing them. We found that it was important for hospitals to get, and the organizations that were collecting them, to have a consistent product that they could know they were getting for intake. And some of them, you know, maybe had nose visors, some had filters, some were different sizes, some used ear loops that were made of a different material because there was an elastic shortage. But one thing that was interesting that we found out is that everybody wanted to help. And a lot of people that sew had fabric stashes that they were just looking to get rid of, because when you get rid of your fabric, you can go buy new fabric. So they weren't able to do that at the time, but it was, everybody had supplies. A lot of people had supplies. And so people were able to contribute in many different ways. They could sew, they could cut fabric, they could wash fabric, they could deliver to the hubs. In addition to what Javi shared, we didn't necessarily want to send 1,500 people to a hospital to deliver masks. We wanted to have that consistent process and have single people run those masks over so that they weren't being overwhelmed with intake or inconsistency. So a lot of what Javi did as we went throughout the course was we had a process, and then there would be a hiccup in the process, and she would say, okay, now here's what we need to do to optimize. We're gonna standardize with hubs, we're gonna standardize with runners. So it was truly an iterative process where Javi, as we went through each thing we learned, I think we talked daily on a phone call, but constant Facebook chat going throughout it to try and figure out, like, how do we make this better and give people a way to participate. So I think this quote really hits home. Individually, we're one drop, together we're an ocean. I'm gonna flip to the next slide. So we talked about the origin. So here's an example of the standardized masks. Javi can probably tell you what size elastic that is just by eyeballing.
7 inches.
Yes, but we also went through and made sure that we had tightly woven cotton, because anybody who sews or is not a crafter, there's muslin, there's there's synthetic material, so we had to make sure that it was the proper material. Javi was really good at procuring elastic from different locations all over the internet. So people would send an elastic and it would be cut into certain lengths. Javi, do you want to talk about the hubs and the material distribution model and all of that fun stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, like I said, we have 12 different hubs around the Seacoast because we wanted to make sure that it was easy and convenient to everyone. So no one had to drive too far to get materials or to drop off the mask. With the situation, it was very important that, you know, we could get as much help as possible. And by making it easy and convenient to everyone, then we could like maximize the people that was willing to participate. And it didn't matter if you did 1 mask or 100 masks, but you know, as long as everyone is doing the same mask and following the pattern and using the right materials, then we can use all of them, right? So people would just go to the hubs, which normally would not be further than like 10 minutes from you, and pick up materials. Then you would take them home, make the mask, and then bring them back when ready. So additionally, we also had runners that would pick up materials and take them to people that were not willing or able to leave their homes, so that way they could also participate without having to go outside. But also everything was contactless. So it's really, people feel secure being able to participate because there was no, like, you were in contact with anyone else, everything was sanitized, you would grab things from this bucket, and then we had separate buckets for materials, separate ones for already made masks and whatnot. So like everyone felt like they could safely participate without putting themselves in any danger from like coronavirus.
And the other thing that was important that Javi and Amy Ouellette, our intake coordinator, managed was we wanted to make sure that as soon as we had the masks made, that we had a good count of how many masks we had so that we could distribute those out to the different organizations that needed them. Amy had a really vital role as the intake coordinator because oftentimes the organizations didn't necessarily know what they needed. And it's probably important to talk about the kinds of organizations. It started out as hospitals, nursing homes, grocery stores, restaurants, manufacturers, Javi, any other kind of prisons. We did supply a lot of masks to some local prisons and jails. So that's where the making sure that metal isn't in the mask becomes important, because that's not something that they were able to distribute. Local police departments, fire departments. So we did focus on the organization as opposed to the individual, so that we could maximize distribution and impact for the masks as opposed to doing the single handoffs. But Amy spent daily hours on the phone with the organizations to assess what their needs were, make sure that we shipped the masks to the right hub in the runner to deliver them so they had the right supply. And the goal was really to, as soon as we collected and counted and Javi did her QC on them, that they were distributed as quickly as possible to get out to those orgs.
Yeah, we came up with these pretty crazy spreadsheets with like thousands of numbers and like formulas and stuff, so that we could have a pretty instant count of everything. So every hub coordinator was in charge of counting all of their masks at the end of the night. For example, like something just as counting the masks became very quickly very tedious and very time consuming, because originally we didn't have any process for it, right? People would just drop off their mask and then we would just count them. But then we start asking people, for example, to put them in bundles or to separate them by type. Stuff like that make us spend a lot less time on manual tasks like that. And then we could use that time on, making masks and distributing them and whatnot. So like every time we would encounter some issue that was taken away from making masks, then we would quickly kind of like regroup and try to figure out a better way to do these more efficiently and more effectively.
I'm gonna flip ahead to the volunteers. So none of this would have been possible without the distributed network of volunteers that we had across the board. People that donated fabric, sewed, the runners who would run masks or supplies from hub to hub, or pick them up from people who weren't able to leave their house, or deliver them to locations. I think, I don't think we've shared the total numbers, but I think at the end of the run of about 10 weeks, so it's from the middle of March through Memorial Day of last year, we had distributed 60,000 masks to around 300 organizations over the Seacoast, with hundreds of volunteers. We had a fairly active Facebook group with about 2,000 members on it, where they were able to ask questions of each other. How do you do this? Where do you get these materials? What's the pattern? It was very important to keep redirecting people to what the pattern was, so we didn't get stuff that we weren't able to distribute. But the cool thing about the volunteers was, as Javi indicated, people were looking for a way to contribute and help out in what felt like a hopeless situation. So it ended up people were hauling material stashed that were their grandmothers, out of the basement, washing them and using that fabric. People were picking up the sewing machines that they hadn't used in years. Mothers were teaching their daughters how to sew that they hadn't before. People were sewing masks as part of a community service project for school credits for their kids. A lot of the women employed their husbands to cut elastic in 7-inch lengths, or pin materials, or ironing. So it was a whole, family effort. So even if we had individuals in the group, a lot of them were enlisting their family members to come along and help as well.
Yeah, and I think the important bit that a lot of people kind of like called out when discussing the experience is that that everyone obviously wanted to help others, but also I feel like everyone felt like they were helping each other a little bit as well by, we're in this health situation, we don't know what's going on, a lot of people are anxious, worried about their mental health, about their work situation, and having something rewarding to do and to spend time off with your loved ones, or even if it's by yourself, I feel like it gave a lot of people something to look forward. And the community in the Facebook group was just like so amazing. Everyone was just like always sharing such heartfelt stories and how happy they're to be able to participate, even if it was something as little as just washing the fabric. But so many people were able to participate in different ways, like Sarah mentioned, and I think it was just so great. There were just so many ways that came out of it, so many new friends and stuff like that. I think it's just like really great situation that people were able to participate in.
Absolutely. And we also had people that would assemble kits. So somebody could go pick up a kit and then just make a bundle of 10 masks. So as we went throughout the process, we continue to evolve and iterate on the process. So I know we want to leave time for questions. So I'm going to jump ahead to the last slide that we have. Javi, do you want to talk about the recognition that the group recently received from
Yeah.
state and local chapters?
Yeah, so I don't know if you're all familiar with the Daughters of the American Revolution, but they chose to give their what was the name of the award, Sarah? Like Volunteer of the Year or something like that, or
Yes.
Community Volunteer award to the Seacoast Mask Maker, and they did this at both the local chapter level as well as the state level. And they just recognized like the all of the efforts that our group did during the pandemic in helping making and distributing masks to the state of New Hampshire. And, we made about 60,000 masks. And if you think about it, these are all reusable masks. If you're counting them, using them daily for the span of 2 or 3 months, that would be the equivalent of like over 5 million disposable masks. So if you think about it that way, it's really like a big thing that we did, because like at that point you couldn't get masks anywhere. So we're really happy that we were able to kind of like, get together and help our community. And I think we did make a big impact by doing that. So it was a really great experience.
Absolutely.
I can only say, wow, that's all I can say. You not only helped so many people, so many first responders, you helped each other. And what a well-oiled machine. Hello. Wow. It takes people with that knowledge, that experience, that drive to create the infrastructure that allowed that to happen. But also the fact that you gave that gift to each of those volunteers. You were able to give that gift of helping. You responded to their request to help. So many people wanted to help, and you gave them that gift. Not to mention the masks. Only 60,000 of them. Yeah. So, but the gifts that you have given so many people are just, they're countless. They're countless. So this is my gift right here. I have mine. So much. So I cannot thank you enough. I think all of us cannot thank you enough, and Anne can't thank you enough. We are going to get to some questions here. Thank you for putting together that quick PowerPoint. That was awesome.
Yes,
great.
Sarah gilded.
Wow. Well done. Yeah, see, there you are. Fast. Get up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just how we roll.
That's exactly.
Apparently, yes. Wow, that was amazing. Amazing. We've brought two groups together today, but there are so many others that we didn't bring in today. We want to go through just a quick list of the other pandemic powerhouses that have been under the radar. Andrew's going to help me with this. And I have to start by saying, I'm sorry. I know that we are missing people. Absolutely. There's no way we can have a complete list. We did solicit some names and, taking names, taking numbers. But I don't think we came anywhere near how many people in this community have given over the last nine months. So, and Andrew was one of them. That the silver lining to him not being able to travel is that we got him in town to help us out with Pop-Up New Hampshire, and the other, he monitors the task force all the time. I certainly hope that he's appointed to the task force next go around, he and Ann both, because you both have just been a part of that discussion since the get-go. So Andrew, I'm going to say one more thing that it almost goes without saying that literally we would not have survived this pandemic so far without our medical institutions, our first responders, our police, our fire, grocery frontline staff. It never gets old saying thank you to all of those folks. But we also have a list of people that we want to specifically call out, perhaps embarrassing some of them, but that's the way it goes. Andrew.
Yeah, and I'll start the list. And obviously we can't get everybody, and apologies to anybody that we might have missed. One thing I'll say, hearing your presentations from the Seacoast Mask Makers early on in the pandemic and even up to today, I'm constantly getting messages from people I don't know saying, I've got some time on my hands. What can I do to help? Or I have this that I can donate, and can you put me in touch with somebody? It just feels like it's the holiday season all year round, even though we're in the middle of this terrible pandemic. The community spirit and the esprit de corps, all of that, it's just been, it's been amazing to see. So first, I'd like to start by thanking the city staff, most notably Public Works Director Peter Rice, Planning Director Juliet Walker, and their teams. They just have been working tirelessly under pretty difficult circumstances. Stephanie Secord for the City Manager's Daily, then 3 times weekly advisory. I know I look forward to that, as well as the poems on every Sunday, and the data from the health subcommittee. We've got some high-level professional medical personnel and doctors on our health subcommittee giving us relevant real-time local data, which I think is of great value. And I know the health department has been obviously strained, and they're very happy to receive that data. I could name dozens of people from the pop-up. I'm just going to name 2 real quick because they've been behind the scenes, but did a huge amount. Mike Daigle and Kim Davies from Davies Tire, just 2 among many who did a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes for pop-up. And on the Bridge Street lot, like I said, I could name lots, but I'll just stick to those 2. The many performers who came out to the Bridge Street lot, those arts venues that pivoted quickly to bring us music and fun and laughter all summer, PMAC, Seacoast Rep, the Music Hall, New Hampshire Theater Project, Players Ring, Halloween Parade. Normally people plan like for a year to do these types of events, and they very quickly, in a matter of weeks, sometimes days, were able to put things on so that we could have a little bit of a live entertainment and something to go and do and enjoy. Obviously, the Portsmouth Citizens Response Task Force co-chair is James Peterson of Peterson Engineering and Mark Stebbins of Procon. Subcommittee chair is Ann Berner, Health, and Russ Grazer, Bridge Street Lot. Minute taker extraordinaire, Patience Horton. And then finally, for my part of the list before Valerie continues it, is Eric Levi Levin. He's a local real estate agent, and I know him from the PTA at the Portsmouth Middle School. He's been a member there for years, raising awareness and helping promote our dining community with his page Seacoast Eats on Facebook. He started that at the start of the pandemic, and he was just kind of pushing out real-time information, who's open, who's doing takeout, because everything was changing almost daily or hourly at that point. So it was like a hub where people could go get information on all the local restaurants, not just in Portsmouth, but the local communities as well. And I think he's up to 13,000 members, which is, pretty tremendous for something that's not even a year old. And then I'll hand it over to you, Valerie, for the rest of the list.
Thanks, Andrew. So I'm going to keep going here. Robin Albert from Portsmouth Historic Society creating the scavenger hunt for those gingerbread houses. That's getting gingerbread creations out in the downtown, but also locals into the shops and Discover Portsmouth. So getting people around town to help our businesses. Massimo of Ristorante Massimo for showing us how to get out on the streets with class. And for collaborating with Surrey Street Bakery to expand both of their outside dining areas. Cava Tapas and Wine Bar and Elephantine Bakery did the same thing, sharing tables. Collaborations were happening everywhere, and it's for people to help each other. Wendy Clement of Kennedy Gallery, Liz Rogers of Lizology, and other shops and businesses who helped the restaurants by allowing use of their street frontage for the dining. Seemingly small things have made a big difference. Jeanette Desmond of Kilman's, who tapped her vendors for thermometers, gloves, and masks when none of us could find PPE, and she placed orders for us. The Port Inn housed clients from Crossroads House to eliminate crowding there, responding within 10 minutes to an ask that we put out to all the hotels. Craziness. It was amazing. The newly founded Alliance for Greater Good co-founders, Lisa Vivanetto, Catherine Garcia, Julie Johnson, and Joanne Wolfe, they collected 1,700 hats, gloves, and mittens to go along with meals from Gather this Thanksgiving. They're doing a letter writing campaign to provide holiday cheer to seniors and those in assisted living facilities, helping in so many different ways. The pandemic powerhouses of the AC Hotel, who cooked and served meals for the Crossroads folks. The Seacoast rep that pivoted and has done so much to keep the arts community alive in our community. And I want to thank the City Council. I also think that they stepped up. They empowered the task force to research possibilities, to determine feasibility with the city staff, and then make the decisions to allow for changes that were quote unquote life-saving, according to the restaurants, for our businesses in our community. So many people have pitched in to do so much, and we cannot thank and we cannot list all of them, but you know who you are out there, and thank you very much. We are going to open up for Q&A right now. If we have any questions, do we have any? Ben, I think we don't. Yeah?
Nope, we don't.
Well, that's because everybody did such a great job. Ann and Sarah and Javi did such a great job of telling us what they've been doing. I'm blown away by all of it. I truly am. So we're going to wrap up then, unless somebody finally wants to have any questions. No. Okay. We're going to wrap up. Normally we do these chats the second and fourth Fridays of the month. I suspect nobody wants to talk to us on Christmas Day. So the next one's going to be January 8th. So we'll give you more information about that after the first of the year. Reminders: wear a mask, wash your hands, stay safely distanced, hopefully wear a Seacoast Mask Maker mask. And, you know, in this time when we're all stressed, we were talking earlier today, you know, we have our normal stress, then we have a pandemic stress, then we've had our election stress, and now we have holiday stress. So goodness, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And, you know, I always talk about it takes 11 hugs a day to thrive, not just to survive, but to thrive. And while we can't always hug each other in person, we can hug each other by doing good, which is exactly what you folks have been doing. The hugs that you have given us, every one of these is a hug, right? So thank you for that and keep doing that. I want to thank Ann, Sarah, Javi, and my co-host Andrew, and of course Jen and Ben for always being there to support, for joining us today. We try to leave you with a little bit of a happy face. So continuing with the theme, Ben has a video he's lined up for us to enjoy about more people doing good when nobody's watching.
There's good news tonight about good deeds caught on those doorbell cameras and the moments of joy they inspire. When we think no one is watching,
we found your wallet.
Our truest selves are revealed.
We just thought we would give it back to you. So.
These kids in Colorado returning a wallet. This FedEx driver folding a customer's American flag correctly. FedEx worker Mel Marlette in Missouri caught on camera going above and beyond.
Grabbed the shovel and, like I've done many countless times before, started shoveling and I cleared the stoop up.
Shoveling Jody Lafreniere's walkway.
I think we're so eager to catch that person doing something wrong. We hardly ever catch anybody doing something right.
There are, it turns out, so many people doing right, like sanitation worker Billy Shelby, who spotted 88-year-old Opal fall in her driveway.
And when she fell, of course, I jumped out the truck and ran over there, and I could tell she was in distress.
Since then, he's added a new duty to his route. Her daughter watches it unfold from her phone.
I see the sanitation worker walking my mom up arm in arm. They were just having some great conversation.
No one else had never done that, and he does, and he still does.
I just knew I was doing the right thing. You know, Doing the right thing ain't hard to do.
Bye-bye. Then there's this video. 2-year-old Cohen running, arms outstretched toward pizza delivery man Ryan.
I thought it was so funny that my toddler just ran out and hugged a stranger.
His mother shared the video online. Ryan saw it and posted, "This little guy has no idea how much I actually needed that this week."
Upon going to his Facebook, that's when I saw the GoFundMe and that his daughter had recently passed, like within the last week. My heart absolutely breaks for the family. I can't imagine what they're going through.
A hug with an impact. So many little acts of kindness adding up and finally being seen.
I learned that there's still good people in this world.
You truly never know what people are going through, so always choose to be kind.
Good people indeed.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here.
Thanks, Ben, for loading that up there. So remember, be kind, do good, have a wonderful holiday season. Please stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.